It was supposed to be just another quiet Sunday night in Plainfield, Illinois. The kind of small-town evening where the world feels untouched by the chaos seen on the nightly news. Where porch lights flicker gently, children are tucked into bed by 9 p.m., and the faint scent of barbecue still lingers from weekend cookouts. The Rowan family lived in a modest two-story house at the end of Timber Creek Lane. The cul-de-sac was so quiet you could hear the leaves rustle before you heard a car pass by. It was the kind of place where everyone knew each other, at least by face, if not by name. Stephen and Diana Rowan had built their lives here. Stephen, 48, worked as a systems engineer in Joliet. Diana, 46, was a middle school guidance counselor. Empathetic, warm, always ready with a kind word. Their 3 children, Caleb, 17, Madison, 14, and Noah, 9, were deeply rooted in the community. Caleb, a high school senior, was a star track runner. Madison was a quiet but brilliant honor student. And Noah, the youngest, was the kind of kid who still believed in superheroes and had a different one drawn on his lunchbox every week. That Sunday, March 17, 2019, seemed like any other. Diana had just returned from the grocery store. The receipt, later found on the kitchen counter, was time-stamped at 5:37 p.m. Caleb had spent the day texting friends about his upcoming scholarship interview. Madison had an algebra test to study for. Noah was building a Lego pirate ship in the living room. At 7:22 p.m., a neighbor named Lisa Cook waved at Diana as she stepped out to take the trash bins to the curb. That would be the last time anyone saw any member of the Rowan family alive. The 911 call that shattered the silence. At exactly 6:12 a.m. the next morning, a chilling 911 call came from a neighbor on Timber Creek Lane. I don't know what happened. Their garage door is open, and their dog is just running loose. It's not like them. The lights are still on. I think something's wrong. Please send someone. Please. Officers from the Plainfield Police Department arrived within 10 minutes. The scene they encountered would haunt them for the rest of their careers. The Rowans' front door was unlocked. Inside, the home was disturbingly still. The television was on, a paused Netflix screen frozen on an episode of the Great British Baking Show. A bowl of popcorn, half finished, sat on the coffee table. Noah's Lego pirate ship collapsed on the floor, scattered mid-assembly. But there was no sign of life. No sound. No motion. Just the soft hum of electricity and the occasional rattle from the dog, Harley, who had retreated to the backyard. The officers began clearing rooms. That's when they reached the upstairs hallway. The bedrooms were silent, but not empty. A crime scene too gruesome for words. In the master bedroom, Stephen and Diana lay side by side in bed, both executed with a single gunshot wound to the head. There were no signs of a struggle. No forced entry. No defensive wounds. In Caleb's room, the 17-year-old was found slumped over his desk, earbuds still in. He had been shot once in the back of the head. Madison's room was eerily untouched, except for her body. She was curled under her blankets, as if asleep, but she wasn't breathing. A single gunshot wound just above her left ear. Noah's room was the worst. He hadn't made it to bed. He was found on the floor beside his toy box, one slipper half on, the other near the doorway. He'd been shot at close range. The report would later say he likely heard something and got up. Each member of the family was murdered in a methodical, execution-style fashion, suggesting either military training or someone with an intimate, personal hatred. But there were no signs of robbery. No valuables were taken. Wallets were untouched. Jewelry is still in place. There was no sign of forced entry. The alarm system had been disabled from inside. And nothing was broken. Nothing. Except 5 lives. The town reacts. This doesn't happen here. By 9 a.m., the Plainfield was flooded with flashing lights and news vans. Drones buzzed overhead. Reporters clutched mics with trembling hands. A family of 5, gone. In one night. The media dubbed it the Rowan House Massacre. Detective Leslie Kramer, the lead investigator, stood before cameras with pale skin and hollow eyes. We believe this was not a random act of violence. Currently, we are pursuing several leads, and we ask the community to remain calm. But calm was no longer an option. Parents pulled their kids from school. Local gun stores saw a spike in sales. People double-locked their doors and peeked through blinds at shadows that hadn't scared them the day before. The Rowan family wasn't just another statistic. They were neighbors, friends, PTA members. That kind of violence didn't belong in a place like Plainfield. And yet, here it was, like a parasite burrowing into the town's collective mind. Theories begin to swirl. In the days that followed, speculation filled the vacuum of answers.
Was it a hit?
Some pointed to Stephen's job in cybersecurity.
Could he have crossed the wrong line?
A jealous ex? Diana had been known to counsel families in distress. Maybe someone held a grudge. A student turned violent. Caleb was well-liked. But what about Madison's circle? Had someone been rejected, humiliated, and sought revenge? None of it made sense. There was no sign of forced entry. No fingerprints that didn't belong. No strange DNA. No weapons missing from the family's home. Detectives canvassed the area, checked doorbell footage, and analyzed cell tower pings. Nothing concrete. Except one thing, a strange boot print found on the back porch. A partial.
Size 12.
A brand sold mostly to military and law enforcement. It didn't match Stephen, or anyone in the house. But even more chilling, it was the only out-of-place clue in an otherwise surgically clean crime scene. Someone had planned this. Someone had watched them. Someone had been inside that house, long enough to kill 5 people without leaving so much as a whisper behind. The missing hour. The autopsy reports painted a horrifying picture. Time of death, between 9:15 and 10 p.m. The family had been alive at 8:30 p.m., confirmed by Caleb's final text to his friend. Gonna study a bit. Talk tomorrow. But by 10 p.m., the house was dead silent. A single hour. 1 hour of absolute terror. 1 hour where someone, calm, practiced, unfeeling, slipped into a home, moved from room to room, and slaughtered a family in their sanctuary. And left. Without panic. Without noise. Without mercy. But then, a break in the case? 10 days after the murders, a tip came into the anonymous crime line. It was a scrambled voicemail, voice altered electronically. You're looking in the wrong places. The killer is one of you. Detectives tried tracing it. No luck, but a new theory was born. Could this have been an inside job? A cop? A neighbor? Someone in Plainfield itself? Paranoia exploded. No one was safe. And worse, no one was arrested. I think someone is watching our house at night. I saw him again. From Madison Rowan's diary, dated March 9, 2019. That single sentence, scrawled in blue ink on pink notebook papers, sent a wave of dread through the Plainfield Police Department when it was discovered. Madison had always been an introspective girl. A journaler. Her parents encouraged it. But they never read her entries. That was her space. Her thoughts. Her safety net. Until it became evidence. The diary that changed everything. During the evidence sweep of the Rowan home, Madison's bedroom had appeared undisturbed, like she had simply gone to sleep and never woken up. But when detectives opened her desk drawer, tucked beneath a stack of lined school papers was a journal. A simple spiral-bound notebook. On the cover, stickers, stars, a unicorn, and one that said, "I need space." They almost missed it. But once opened, the entries are painted a chilling picture. The last 2 weeks before her death were filled with paranoia, cryptic warnings, and something else. Fear. March 4, 2019. I told Mom I heard someone in the yard last night. She said it was probably a raccoon, but it didn't sound like an animal. It sounded like a man walking. March 6, 2019. Caleb said I'm being dramatic, but I swear I saw a man standing at the edge of our property near the tree line. I ran to the window to look again, and he was gone. March 9, 2019. I think someone is watching our house at night. I saw him again. The last entry was dated March 16th, 1 day before the murders. Harley barked like crazy last night. I couldn't sleep. I thought I saw someone near the shed again. I feel like I'm going crazy. The Rowans had never reported any of this. A shed no one thought to check. The family's backyard had a small, weather-worn shed, mostly used for holiday decorations and gardening tools. Police had done a cursory check in the early hours of the investigation, but found nothing suspicious. Now, with the context of Madison's diary, Detective Leslie Kramer returned to the scene with a forensic team. Inside the shed, everything seemed untouched, until a technician pulled the overhead insulation back. There, nestled between rafters, they found a crumpled piece of plastic, a food wrapper. Protein bar. Military grade. The kind is issued in field packs. And nearby, a discarded latex glove, rolled into a ball and stuffed into a corner. Both items were bagged and sent to the state crime lab. But the scariest part wasn't what they found. It was the conclusion it led them to. Someone had been hiding in the shed, watching the house, waiting. The silent figure caught on camera. 3 houses down from the Rowans lived retired teacher and tech enthusiast Roger Linden, 67. He had motion-activated cameras facing both the front and rear of his property, and one angled just enough to catch part of the Rowan backyard. On March 16th, at 8:42 p.m., the rear camera captured a grainy, shadowy figure moving just beyond the trees. The person paused, then stepped briefly into full view. They wore dark clothing, possibly tactical gear. A hooded mask obscured the face. Then, the figure dropped low and disappeared behind the fence. Roger hadn't checked the footage until detectives came knocking. The timestamp was important. Just 30 minutes before the Rowans were believed to have been murdered. The theory solidified. The killer had been in the shed, or near it, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. A ghost from the military records. That military-style protein bar and the glove offered the first forensic hope in the case. DNA testing began immediately, but with no national match, detectives turned to another angle. Who in town had military experience? Several residents did, including former Marine, Warren Dell, 39. Warren had moved to Plainfield 6 months prior and worked part-time at a local gun range. By all accounts, he was quiet, polite, and kept to himself. He lived in a small rental house on the outskirts of town. No wife, no kids, no criminal record. But when police tried to reach him for questioning the day after the murders, Warren was gone. His landlord confirmed it. Left in the middle of the night. Didn't say a word. Rent paid. Place spotless. But just gone. The gun range where he worked said the same. No notice. No forwarding address. It was as if he vanished into thin air. His phone had been powered off since March 17th. His car was found 4 days later, abandoned in a Walmart parking lot in Indiana. And inside the trunk, a single item, a pair of boots. Size 12. Matching the print from the Rowan backyard. What was Warren Dell running from? As detectives dug into Warren's past, a disturbing profile emerged. He had served 2 tours in Afghanistan. Highly decorated, expert marksman. But his service ended abruptly after a psychological incident. Records redacted due to military confidentiality. After his discharge, Warren moved frequently. 6 states in 4 years. Neighbors often described him the same way. Kept to himself. Friendly, but distant. Always watching. There was one more detail that caused a chill. Warren's last known address before Plainfield? Peoria, Illinois. Less than 90 miles away. Where, just 2 years earlier, another family had been found murdered in their home. Husband, wife, and 2 children. The case. Still unsolved. And in that case, just like the Rowans, the victims had been killed execution style. No forced entry. No signs of robbery. The murders happened in the span of 1 hour. The FBI steps in. With 2 potentially linked family massacres and a suspect with military training, the FBI joined the investigation. Warren Dell was now considered a person of interest in both cases. A nationwide manhunt was quietly launched. But catching a man like Warren wasn't easy. He was trained to disappear. Trained to kill. And worst of all, he may not have been finished. The Rowan murders had all the signs of a ritualistic act. Calculated. Purposeful. Clean. But why them? What was the connection? The hidden note in Caleb's shoe. 3 weeks after the murders, during a final pass through the evidence lockers, a technician cataloging the family's personal items made a discovery. Inside Caleb Rowan's running shoe, tucked deep in the toe, was a folded strip of paper. It read, "We should have listened to Maddie. He wasn't a dream. He's real." Handwriting analysis confirmed it was Caleb's. That note changed everything. It meant that multiple members of the family had known something, or someone was threatening them. But why didn't they tell anyone? Were they too afraid? Or had they been warned to stay silent? You think it can't happen here. You think evil only lives in stories and big cities. Then one morning you wake up and realize it was watching you sleep the whole time. Detective Leslie Kramer, Plainfield Police Department. The manhunt for Warren Dell was officially underway. But even as investigators scrambled to track his movements, something darker and more disturbing began to take shape. Something far more chilling than a fugitive on the run. Warren hadn't just snapped. He had a plan, a method, a target. And as the FBI's behavioral analysts began to sift through old records, crime scene similarities, and psychological profiles, a terrifying theory emerged. The Rowan family massacre was not an isolated incident. It was one of several echoes of death. The Peoria family murder. 2 years before the Rowan family was executed, James and Eliza Monroe, along with their 2 young daughters, were killed in their suburban Peoria home. The Monroes were respected, private, church-going people. No enemies, no drama, no drugs, no debts. On May 12, 2017, all 4 were found dead. 2 shots each to the head, fired from close range. No forced entry. No valuables are missing. No forensic evidence. Just boot prints leading away from the back door.
Size 12.
The case had gone cold, until now, when analysts from the FBI Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, VICAP, compared the Monroe case to the Rowan slaying. They flagged 11 identical details, including family of 4, victims placed in natural sleeping positions, no pets harmed, same caliber weapon, .40 S&W, suppressor used, tactical precision, military-style execution, surveillance blind spots exploited, nearby shed or structure disturbed, and most chilling, a missing personal item from each victim. From the Monroes, it was a child's drawing. From the Rowans, it was Madison's diary, discovered during initial searches but missing by the time the FBI re-inventoried the scene. Someone had come back and taken it. A trail of vanished families. What began as 2 families quickly became 5. Across Illinois, Indiana, and Wisconsin, dating back to 2014, a horrifying trend emerged. Suburban families wiped out in single nights, every 18 to 24 months. Each one had the same eerie consistencies. 4 victims. No survivors. No clear motive. No media attention beyond the local level. Cases officially unsolved or ruled as murder-suicides. But when the FBI reclassified the Monroe and Rowan cases as homicides committed by a possible serial family killer, they realized something even more haunting. Every family lived within a 2-hour drive of a major VA hospital. And every male head of household had no known military background. Warren Dell's military record, unstable psychological profile, and disappearance positioned him as the only possible connection. Now they had a profile, organized, patient, mission-oriented, and possibly suffering from delusional fixation rooted in his service trauma. The woman who got away. It wasn't until VICAP combed through attempted home invasions within the same radius that they found her. Margaret Heller, 45, was a single mother living in Joliet, Illinois. One night in October 2018, she and her teenage son woke up to the sound of their dog snarling violently at the window. Moments later, the porch light, on a motion sensor, flickered on. Margaret saw a man standing in her yard, dressed in black, face partially covered, watching the house. When she screamed, he vanished into the night. Police found boot prints outside the shed in the backyard, size 12. But with no harm done, the case went nowhere. But when FBI agents showed her a photo of Warren Dell, "That's him," she whispered. "That's the man who watched us." She never reported it again. She moved to New Mexico 6 weeks later. The Rowan family's secret. As investigators continued combing through the Rowans' digital lives, they discovered something strange. Caleb Rowan, the 17-year-old son, had been researching military PTSD, classified combat incidents, and private veteran forums under a pseudonym. His laptop revealed cached searches. Discharged soldiers with delusions. Families targeted after whistleblowing. Retired Marines and civilian murders. VA cover-ups. He had also posted anonymously on a message board called Patriot Truth Net, asking, "Can dishonorably discharged soldiers retaliate against civilians? What if a soldier thought a family did something wrong during a war?" Most of the replies dismissed him as paranoid, but one anonymous reply stood out. "Some ghosts don't want justice. They want balance. 4 for 4. Eye for eye." It was posted 9 days before the Rowan murders. The IP address, routed through a military-grade VPN. Untraceable. The meaning of 4 for 4. The profiler's theory took a dark turn. What if Warren Dell didn't see the families as random victims? What if he saw them as representatives? A symbolic act for something that had happened to him. Investigators pushed for access to Dell's sealed military records. What they found explained everything. Operation Dust Viper. The mission that broke him. In 2012, Warren Dell was part of a classified mission in Kandahar Province, Afghanistan. Codenamed Operation Dust Viper, it involved the extraction of a high-value detainee believed to be connected to insurgent bombings. During the mission, Warren's unit was misled by faulty intelligence. The location was not an insurgent cell, but a civilian home. 4 Afghan civilians were killed. A man, his wife, 2 children. Warren had personally cleared the building. He had found a diary in one of the children's rooms. He never spoke of it again. 6 months later, he was honorably discharged, but his psychological eval labeled him mentally unstable with paranoid fixations and dissociative episodes. And here was the chilling link. He was reliving that night, over and over. But this time, making American families pay. 4 for 4, he wrote in a notebook later found at an abandoned hunting cabin tied to him. Beneath it, he'd drawn a single tally mark. 5 tallies followed. The cabin in the woods. 3 months after the Rowan murders, agents located a remote cabin in northern Wisconsin. It had been rented under a fake name matching a civilian alias used by Dell during recon operations. Inside, they found a .40 caliber handgun, tactical maps of Midwestern suburbs, surveillance photos of 2 more families, and taped to the wall, a child's unicorn sticker, the same type of Madison Rowan had on her journal. Dell was now officially classified by the FBI as armed, trained, psychologically unstable, mission-driven, capable of premeditated family annihilation. And he was still out there. To be hunted is one thing, but to be watched, to be studied, analyzed, and chosen, that's something far worse. Excerpt from FBI Profiler's Journal, 2023. The Hendersons of Rockford. They were the image of Midwestern contentment. Stephen Henderson, 44, a high school history teacher. Emily Henderson, 42, a home-based graphic designer. Mia, 15, a sophomore with a passion for ballet. Luke, 11, a Lego prodigy and aspiring engineer. Their house sat on the edge of a wooded cul-de-sac in Rockford, Illinois. Perfectly normal. Perfectly unremarkable. Exactly the kind of home that made it so easy to blend in, and so easy to target. They didn't know it, but they were already part of Warren Dell's ritual. And he'd been watching them for 6 weeks. The preparation phase. From a rusted-out camper van parked 3 streets away, under the cover of trees and parked construction equipment, Dell kept a meticulous log. Stephen jogs at 5:45 a.m. Emily opens the blinds at 6:12 a.m. Kids leave for school at 7:30 a.m. Emily sits in her home office until noon. Garage door code, observed twice, 4-9-1-3. Dog barks at shadows, not people. Useless. No exterior cameras. Only one motion light. Inside his van, Warren had a whiteboard. 4 columns. Father, mother, daughter, son. Beneath each were bullet points. How they laugh, what they fear, who they trust, what they'd scream if they saw me. 4 for 4, he muttered to himself. It's not revenge. It's balanced. Correction. The warning no one believed. Just 5 days before the planned attack, the Hendersons' neighbor, Derek Callum, a 67-year-old widower with sharp eyes and a sharper sense of paranoia, called Rockford PD. There's a man in a black jacket, watching that house every morning. Sometimes at night. Sometimes parked. Sometimes just standing under that tree line. He doesn't belong. The officer who took the report noted it and said a patrol would swing by. No follow-up. No urgency. No alerts. Emily did mention once, over dinner, that she felt like someone was watching her from the backwoods. Stephen had chuckled. It's a raccoon. Or a deer. We live in Illinois, not a crime shows. They both laughed. But Mia didn't. She had seen it too. A man in the trees. But like most teenagers, she assumed adults wouldn't believe her. And she was right. FBI narrowing the net. Back at Quantico, the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit was poring over satellite imagery and vehicle toll data, trying to predict Dell's next target. Using location triangulation from the discovered cabin, Dell's former service records, and his past strikes, they mapped a zone of probability, a triangle spanning Rockford, Naperville, Janesville, WI. Within it were 192 suburban families that matched his preferred profile. 2 children. No history of gun ownership. Backing onto wooded areas. No home security systems. Too many to cover. But it was a missing drone that changed everything. The drone footage. 3 weeks before, a 12-year-old boy named Carlos Fielder lost control of his drone near the wooded edge of Henderson's cul-de-sac. When he recovered it, the footage was corrupted, and he never thought twice. But when federal agents canvassed the area with Dell's pattern in mind, Carlos mentioned it, offhandedly. They retrieved the footage and sent it to forensics. What they recovered made a seasoned FBI tech analyst vomit into a trash bin. There, paused at the 2:19 mark of the video, was a frame. A man standing just inside the tree line, wearing a ski mask and military boots, holding what looked like a suppressed handgun, aimed not at the drone, but at the Hendersons' back door. And he was smiling. The race begins. At 3:02 a.m. on a Thursday morning, SWAT trucks and FBI tactical units descended on Rockford. They surrounded the Henderson home with silent urgency, fearful that one wrong move would trigger a massacre. But when they entered, the family was safe sleeping, confused, terrified. Emily clutched Mia. Stephen was dialing 911 when the door was kicked in. Luke, barely awake, asked, "Is this a drill?" The FBI told them the truth. They were the next target. They were marked for death. The house was evacuated. But when agents swarmed the woods behind their home, Dell was already gone. Inside the trees, they found a recently abandoned campsite, camera footage wired to a battery pack, and a final haunting message burned into a tree trunk. "I see you saved them, but I already chose the next." And beneath it, 7 tally marks. The psychological breaking point. With Dell slipping through their fingers once again, the FBI began to fear the unthinkable, that he was accelerating. Instead of striking every 18 to 24 months, the Rowan murders had happened just 5 months prior. This would have been the next. And if he was unraveling faster, the kill rate would increase. "He's evolving," said lead profiler Evan Huxley. "He's moved from past trauma to present crusade. And that makes him exponentially more dangerous." Dell wasn't just riding his internal scales anymore. He had convinced himself that families were corrupt, that suburban life was a lie masking deeper sins, that each house was a vessel of arrogance. He wrote once in a found notebook, "They flaunt their innocence like flags, but inside, They lie, cheat, betray, and forget. 4 lives, 4 truths, 1 night to erase it all. A change in strategy. After the Rockford near miss, the FBI began working backwards, not just trying to predict who Dell would kill, but why he picked these families. When they examined the Rowans, the Monroes, and 2 earlier families in Wisconsin, a disturbing new clue emerged. All had tangential connections to the U.S. military or government contracting. Caleb Rowan's father had briefly worked on a logistics project for a defense firm. James Monroe once testified in a civil case against a contractor tied to veteran housing. One earlier victim had been a nurse at a VA clinic Dell had visited. The new theory was this: Warren Dell believed these families were complicit in what happened overseas, or at least symbolic stand-ins for the system that betrayed him. He wasn't just murdering families randomly anymore. He was delivering judgment. The final message. Exactly 4 days after the Henderson rescue, a package arrived at the FBI's Springfield field office. It contained a child's stuffed rabbit, a military challenge coin from Dell's old unit, and a single sheet of notebook paper with 1 line: "You don't save families. You delay consequences." Dell had signed it, and with that, the case took its darkest turn. He's not a ghost. He bleeds. He fears. He remembers. But he knows we've forgotten him. And that's what makes him unstoppable. FBI profiler Evan Huxley. Interview transcript, March 2024. An unholy brotherhood. The name Warren Dell triggered quiet panic across 3 states. A former combat medic with a shattered record, a fractured psyche, and a talent for strategic disappearance. But it was his old unit, the Echo Platoon, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Infantry Division, that may have birthed the monster he'd become. Records showed 17 men in that deployment roster. As of 2024, 14 were either dead or untraceable. 1 was Warren Dell. And 1, just 1, was believed to still be alive, somewhere off-grid. His name, Thomas T.J. McCrae. His rank, corporal. His specialty, combat surveillance technician. And he hadn't been seen in nearly 5 years. The first lead. T.J. McCrae's name first surfaced in the investigation when analysts decrypted a hidden file embedded in a corrupted SD card recovered from Dell's makeshift forest base near Rockford. Among photos of families, utility maps, and twisted journal entries, there was a folder titled, "The Ones Who Knew." Inside, 5 military ID photos, including McCrae's. He was the only one not crossed out in red ink. Next to his name, Dell had scrawled, "Where did you run to, brother?" It wasn't a threat. It was a challenge. Maybe even an invitation. The FBI understood then. T.J. McCrae might not just be a witness. He might be Dell's endgame. The disappearance of a soldier. McCrae left the Army in 2017 under medical duress. No official details were released, but one internal VA document contained 3 crucial lines. Subject exhibits hypervigilance, delusions of surveillance. Convinced he is being tracked by former unit member WD. Expressed desire to disappear before he is silenced. In early 2018, he vanished. No phone, no forwarding address, no employment. The last recorded sighting of McCrae was in a VA hospital lobby in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, where he told a nurse, "If he comes, don't lie to him. Just pray for whoever he's here for next." Following the fear, the FBI built a behavioral profile around T.J. McCrae, trying to predict where a paranoid, highly trained, off-grid vet might hide. He'd need water sources, isolation, wildlife familiarity, limited cell coverage, easy escape routes. That narrowed the map to northern Wisconsin, along the edge of Chequamegon-Nicolet National Forest. Then came the break. A DNR ranger named Ellie Bruckner reported a man matching McCrae's description who'd been trading tools for food at remote bait shops, always paying in cash, never giving a name, and always asking for weather updates for the Dakotas. The FBI launched a covert recon mission into the woods, and after 4 days of searching, they found his cabin. Or rather, what was left of it. The burned cabin. The structure had been torched from the inside out, reduced to a skeleton of charred wood and melted tools. But inside, agents found something strange. A cot untouched by fire. A backpack packed but not taken. And a trail of bare footprints leading away. Whoever had lived there, TJ or someone else, had left in a hurry. More chillingly, etched into the side of a surviving metal panel was this: "We were never meant to come back." But some of us couldn't forget. They also found a child's drawing pinned to a scorched post. A stick-figure family standing in front of a house. All of them were crossed out, except for the smallest one. Above the drawing, a single word in black marker. Next. Dell's message to McCrae. The very next day, back at Quantico, a USB drive was delivered in a nondescript envelope. No return address. No fingerprints. Inside the drive was one video file, 43 seconds long. It showed Warren Dell, face fully visible, speaking directly into the camera. "Thomas, I knew you were watching me. I knew you'd try to warn them. But you waited too long. You watched them die just like I did. The difference. I made it mean something. Meet me in the place where it ended. One family left. You know who." Then he smiled. That terrible, almost childlike smile. Fade to black. The family left behind. The FBI scrambled to interpret Dell's cryptic message. One family left. Could it be literal or symbolic? A pattern emerged in Dell's previous murders. He always eliminated families of four, who in some way represented his perception of betrayal by the US system. But what if McCrae's own family was the final target? Digging deeper, agents uncovered that McCrae once had a sister, Lindsay McCrae Forrest, now married with 2 children in a small town outside Kenosha, Wisconsin. A nuclear family of 4, living under a new name. No idea that death was heading their way. A desperate race. FBI field teams were dispatched to Kenosha under the guise of routine law enforcement welfare checks. Lindsay was confused but compliant. She hadn't spoken to TJ in over 6 years. Last I heard, he said we should pretend he was dead. He said he was cursed, and I believed him. Her husband, Darren, dismissed the urgency. But when agents showed him Dell's photo, his face went pale. That man, he was here last week. Said he was with the cable company. Looked around the house. Took notes. Dell was already ahead of them. Again. TJ returns. And then, at 3:14 a.m., a man walked up to the Kenosha police blockade. Hands raised, voice shaking. "I'm Thomas McCrae. I know how to stop him." He looked thin, haunted, but his eyes were sharp. He carried no weapons. Just a dirty notebook clutched to his chest. TJ's secret. Inside that notebook was everything. Locations Dell had scouted. Notes on his old team's deaths. Paranoid diagrams of who was marked. And a final theory that chilled every agent in the room. He's recreating our unit. 4 members. Each family stands for one. Mine is the last. He won't stop until he's buried all of us. And then, TJ drew a symbol on the last page. A house, with a cross through it, and flames surrounding it. Beneath it, he wrote, "He's coming here. He wants me to watch them die." There is a certain kind of evil that waits. It doesn't chase. It doesn't scream. It waits until you feel safe. Then it reaches for the doorknob. Agent Ria Molina, final debriefing. 3 a.m. Kenosha, Wisconsin. The neighborhood looked like any other. Quiet, suburban, comfortably asleep. But inside 67 Greystone Drive, sleep was no longer an option. The Forrest family, Lindsay, her husband Darren, and their 2 young children, had been moved into the safest room of the house. The basement laundry, reinforced with sandbags, portable surveillance gear, and a hidden tunnel exit. TJ McCrae stood just beyond the laundry room door, wearing his old army jacket, flanked by 2 heavily armed FBI agents. He hadn't spoken much since he arrived. Just whispered, "He'll come before sunrise." He always does. Outside, the home was surrounded. Snipers, motion sensors, Drones. A full FBI response unit. But even with all that firepower, everyone felt vulnerable. Because if Warren Dell had proven anything, it was that no amount of preparation ever truly stopped him. The house becomes the battlefield. By 4:13 a.m., the street was still silent. Then motion trackers detected a faint signal from the tree line behind the house. One figure. Then a second. Thermal imaging confirmed. 2 individuals approaching from the east. The command van lit up. Voices scrambled across radio channels. Eyes on. Repeat. We have visual. Snipers waited for authorization. Standing by. Waiting on facial confirmation. Then the unthinkable. One of the thermal signatures vanished. Gone. Mid-frame. The other? It was a decoy. A heating pack wrapped in foil, tapped to a dog. The distraction worked. And that's when Dell slipped inside the perimeter. From beneath. The tunnel. A year before the Forrest family moved in, a construction company filed plans for a storm drain extension directly behind the property. But those plans were never completed. Or so the city thought. TJ had suspected it. He likes to prep. Weeks, sometimes months, before the kill. He watches blueprints, utility maps, storm routes. He builds his own entrance. Beneath the house, agents heard a soft clang against the metal crawlspace door. A muffled thump. A faint crackling. Then, darkness. The basement backup generator surged. Lights flickered. The surveillance monitors scrambled into static. TJ stepped forward, heart pounding. He whispered, "He's here." The confrontation. Warren Dell emerged from the crawlspace like a phantom, painted in soot, eyes wide, grinning. He held no gun, just a military K-bar knife and a Zippo lighter. He spoke softly, almost tenderly. "You brought them all here for me. Like old times, Tommy." The FBI fired first, non-lethal rounds designed to disable, but Dell had prepared. He doves through drywall like a wild animal, using dust and darkness as camouflage. Then, a scream. Agent Morris went down with a slash across his throat. Another agent discharged her weapon, only to realize she'd hit a mirror Dell had placed earlier. The basement had become a trap. And TJ. He realized it too late. He's not here for them. He's here for me. TJ's redemption. TJ McCrae ran upstairs, toward the living room, knowing Dell would follow. And he did, silently, like he'd done in Fallujah, like he'd done in Rockford, like he always did. But TJ wasn't running out of fear. He was leading Dell somewhere. To the attic. Inside was a decoy setup, a child's bed, lullaby music playing from a speaker, and old photos of Dell's unit taped to the walls. Dell stepped in, confused. This isn't the family. TJ shut the attic door behind them and lit a flare. You were never hunting them. You were hunting what's left of you. Dell lunged. TJ fired once. Center mass. Dell staggered but didn't fall. He smiled, blood gurgling from his mouth. I saved them. I saved all of them from becoming us. Then he collapsed, on the floor, in the house where he hoped to end it. Aftermath. Warren Dell was declared dead at 5:47 a.m., the final victim of a killing spree that began years earlier and tore across state lines. He left behind no manifesto, no final message, just a trail of families destroyed and ghosts resurrected. The Forrests were relocated under permanent witness protection. TJ McCrae disappeared again 2 weeks later. No forwarding address. No trace. Only a package sent to the FBI, marked with a return label that simply read, Greystone. Inside was a photograph. The old Echo platoon. All 17 of them, smiling. Except someone had burned out Dell's face. And on the back, written in ink, the war never ended. It just came home. Legacy of a nightmare. The Greystone Slayings, as they became known in Illinois media, left behind more questions than answers. What broke Warren Dell? Was he created by war, or something far older? Was TJ McCrae a hero? A survivor? or the final target that got away. What we know is this: one man, one night, and one house changed everything. And sometimes, the real horror isn't the death toll. It's the feeling that the evil is still out there, watching, waiting, remembering. Families slaughtered. A war that followed its soldiers home. And a final confrontation in a house that became a battlefield. This wasn't just a killing spree. It was a reckoning. One born in blood, memory, and silence. You've just witnessed the tragic and horrifying true story of the Greystone Slayings. Wiped out in one night. Illinois' most horrific family slaying. Stay safe. Stay alert. And remember, sometimes the monster doesn't hide in the dark. Sometimes it knocks on your door. What did you think of the case? Please share your thoughts in the comment below. If you want more video like this, please be sure to like the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on more true crime videos. See you in the next one.